Greetings everyone, Unsafe Kibble here with my Ocarina of Time 3 Hearts first playthrough. Overall, really enjoyed the game. Typical to a Zelda game, it gets ridiculously hard on the final boss. And there are a lot of side quests and collections to do, but here we go. So this is GOHMA. This is the first boss when you leave your village and are going to the Deku tree. Very early on, I had little clue how to free game, and it was hard to figure this out and how to switch between the sword. But basically, you want to pop it in the eye with your slingshot, and then you want to hit it in the eye with your sword. Figuring out how to aim was a little difficult here early in the game. But once I figured it out, it goes down pretty quick. It's a pretty easy boss, very amount of little help. At this point, not really much of a challenge as you're not going to have a lot of health anyway. So, if these minions come down, just smack them. I understand that you can avoid having the minions ever come down. And as you are probably telling from the fact that I got hit right there, this is not going to be flawless. It was a first playthrough. So I enjoy the rest of the kill. So our second boss here is a common puzzle from Zelda games. We've got King Dodo. Dinosaur appeared in the first game. So the basic idea of this boss is you're going to wait for it to open its mouth. You're going to throw a bomb in its mouth, and then you are going to run up and hit it while it can be damaged. If I recall correctly, it's going to take 3 sets of bombs in order to do this. He will shoot a fire breath if you don't do anything at that time. But beyond that, it's a pretty simple boss. I only get hit that one time, and I think this took 2 attempts. So overall, wasn't very complicated, wasn't very hard. Temple wasn't very complex. That changed later. With this boss down, we now move on to the other child temple, which is the water temple, and we've got the jellyfish boss. This boss took, again, I want to say 2 tries because of the fact that you can Z-target a lot of the parts on it. This was the first boss that seemed to go through multiple phases. So on this first phase, you need to take out the boomerang, and you're going to be throwing it at those tentacles at the top. This probably would have been fairly intuitive because of the Z targeting, but I'd already played Wind Waker, which has a similar convention for a boss, so that wasn't really hard to find out. The jellyfish spinning around here were difficult to dodge and problematic. Basically, you want to take your boomerang and you want to not throw it at the wall right here. You can see I'm still trying to figure out controls. You want to hit the center thing. This causes the jellyfish to go vulnerable, and then once they're vulnerable, you want to Z target them with the boomerang again, and that will kill them. And then it goes into a third phase where the main body itself tends to swing around after you. Again, was not very difficult. You want to stay out of the way of the projectiles it's going to be spinning around and get in to damage it with your sword finally. So that's pretty much all there is to this one. Okay, so now we are Adult Link, and we are in the Forest Temple, and we are fighting Phantom Ganon. This is the next area that you're supposed to go to. I did this out of order, so I'm doing this after the Fire Temple, which is not going to make very much of a difference. I have the hammer, but you don't use it in this fight. This fight was the beginning of really frustrating fights, and it's going to drag on fairly long. I am not very good at free aiming without controls and camera stick. So the fact that my movement and camera were working on the same stick, and the fact that the controller was really weird. You'll see me like snapping. It wouldn't allow for fine-tune adjustments. That could be my controller. So basically what I did is I aimed between these two pictures, standing in a corner, and waited for him to pop into one of those two pictures. The room is sort of an octagon shape, and I found that the lightning goes to the center portions and not the corners of the octagon. So if you stand, it may not be an octagon, it may be more sides than that, but if you stand in one of the corners, the lightning that he smashes down will not hit you, and basically you have to hit him 3 times, and he's going to lose his horse. I do save here because I'm dumb and have trouble exiting the menu in this game because B sends you to save. I have to say, I absolutely hated this Phantom Ganon convention in Wind Waker. I absolutely detest it in this game. It sucks so much. I hate it. I hate it. Basically, he's going to fire projectiles at you, and you are going to spend your time trying to smack them back at him. Eventually, after you've smacked it back at him enough and it's hit him, you're gonna kill him. But basically, I'd suggest leaping attacks here. I don't do them a lot because I'm still learning that convention at this point. But that appears to do the most damage. And with that, Phantom Ganon crumples, and you can move on. In my case, to the Water Temple. If you haven't done the Fire Temple yet, you move on to the Fire Temple. Okay, frustration was at maximum for this fight because I ran into the iteration of those enemies that can steal your gear. I'm guessing this was the case in the original Link's Awakening. I'd seen them before. They can steal your outfit. But in this game, I did not realize that they stole it and made you rebuy your entire outfit. The fire outfit right here that I'm wearing, the red, is actually used to protect against the flames. I had to go and rebuy it, which required a bunch of side questing to get a larger wallet, so that sucked. This fight itself became trivialized once I realized that you could stand next to the hole generally and that his spin around you wouldn't hit you. Before this, I was flailing around wildly. Someone in chat tipped me off to that, so thanks for that. When he pops out of the hole like this, he's going to breathe fire. You basically want to run up with the hammer that you acquired in this temple, hit him in the head, and then punish. When he flies out of the hole, he's going to do that circling attack that you saw a moment ago, or he is going to do this attack where he flies up to the ceiling and he drops rocks. I am sure that there is some way to know where the rocks are going to land. I could not figure it out. Watching a bunch of videos online, one of the things I noticed is that my game is significantly darker than theirs. So I'm wondering if there's an issue with my audio-visual cables, which is causing problems with me seeing things like shadows on the rocks. But any case, run up, hit him in the head, punish with the sword. Once you've done that enough, he starts popping out of holes in different trigger patterns, but you can basically do the same thing and win. And with him down, we can move on to the water temple. This fire temple fight was the second longest in the game, probably made so long because of the long animations where he flies around the room and you can't punish him. I imagine that could get very frustrating in speedruns. But he's down and we move on to the water temple. The water temple was far less frustrating than the fire temple. It was also, the boss was far less frustrating. Got the long shot. The basic idea of this fight is he's going to stick his head out of the water and you are going to wait until he floats up into his tentacle, and then you are going to shoot the long shot to pull him out of the body of the boss, and then you're going to smack him. You're going to notice I am using the big Goron sword. That sword does twice the damage of the Master Sword, so it's going to be a very quick fight. I also found out that he bounces when you hit him, so if you can do it correctly, you can get him trapped in the corner and basically bounce him off the wall and hit him repeatedly. I do not do it as successfully as I would like in this round, but you can see here at the beginning I do manage to get, I think, 2, and I missed the 3rd swing, so the fight drags on slightly longer, but that's basically this fight. It's really quick, probably one of the more enjoyable fights of the game, actually, for me. From one of the more enjoyable fights to this shit. This thing took more attempts than anything to this point, so they're at least ramping up the challenge in attempts. It took me forever to realize that the feather boots were harmful in this, number one. Number two, that once you popped the hands, that you needed to pull up the lens of truth in order to literally see the boss. I had trouble getting the bow and arrow to fire correctly, quickly. I had trouble keeping locked onto the hands while you're spinning around the room while everything is bouncing. Just overall frustrating in ways I was not prepared for. I fall down here in the poison, but I'm locked on and I can't climb out. I'm going to climb out here in a second, and I get KO'd by the incoming hit before I even can see it and respond to it. This boss could not die enough. The basic idea is shoot the hands with bow and arrows till they're stunned, and then you want to lock onto the central eyeball. This is exactly like the Wind Waker fight in the Temple of the Gods the first time, except instead of throwing a bomb, you are shooting an eye. So overall, wasn't too hard to figure out what I was supposed to do, but executing it was problematic. So we reach the final battle. I was prepared for this to be difficult because of the fact that Wind Waker was really difficult with its 3 stages, but this fight was frustrating in an entirely different way. So Ganondorf is going to start off this fight, and then he does that punch there. I've since been told that if you wear the iron boots, that you can not be knocked off that platform. I didn't know that, so here I am wielding my Bigoron sword and playing tennis with this guy. I've seen a video where he is killed in 17 seconds. That is not going to happen here. It is going to be long and rather painful to watch. I'm going to use fairies. It's really quite terrible. So I come into this fight, 3 hearts, no practice free aiming the damn bow. Eventually I was able to figure out that what I needed to do was unlock crouch stab. and that does more damage and is going to allow me to more quickly burn him down. But I had a real hard time because of the angle of the camera figuring out how to time these hits. What I found worked for me was backing into a corner like this and then running forward so that I got the forward slash, which put the hitbox on the sword farther in front of me than it usually would be, rather than a horizontal slash. And this allowed me to deflect more readily back at him. If he does this, you basically want to do that spin sword and then shoot him with an arrow. I failed there. I told you it was going to be painful. Alternatively, you can shoot him directly with the arrow while he's charging that, but that took the next day and realizing that you can't save quit and come back after defeating Ganondorf. But I think this is the approaching the end of the fight. I'm going to have to drop down and get more stuff because I run out of supplies. But beyond that, that's basically the fight. Goodbye, you worthless sack of trash. The fact that I had to kill him twice on 2 days is going to leave a special place of hate in my heart for this guy. With Ganondorf down, you enter a running quest. You will not get to resupply, and you head up and out of the castle, and sure enough, he shows back up and uses his Triforce magic to transform into Ganon. This looks like the Ganon from Zelda 1, much the way that Ganondorf looked a lot like the Ganon from Link to the Past. Anyway, the basic idea of this is you want to Z-target his head, and then you want to stagger him. There are a couple of ways you can stagger him. The primary way is going to be light arrows. I'm running low on light arrows, so I decide that I'm going to use the long shot. You can tell that this is the first time I'm using the long shot to stagger because I'm having a little trouble figuring out the pattern here at the beginning. Once I get it down, you can burn through phase 1 pretty quick. If you can do the light arrows, you can burn through it even faster because the stagger can be followed up by a jumping attack, which does far more damage. Once he's down for phase 1, you are going to get called by Zelda over to pick up the Master Sword. You pick it up, it equips the Master Sword. I would not suggest using it. I would switch back, you have to manually do it, to the big Goron sword, and then you're going to smack the tail again until he falls down finally, and when he finally falls down, you're going to stab him in the head. And that's basically the fight. I'll talk more about what I did in Phase 2 here in a minute. Okay, so this is where I was mentioning the fact that you don't get to resupply for this fight. So I was out of heals completely, so I fire up the invulnerability spell right here, and I'm going to basically use this to avoid damage for the rest of the fight. It's going to completely change the way I was fighting, as I'm going to start caring less about keeping distance and really try to get in there and punish, which is going to cause me to get smacked around. So tank strategy, I guess. Also trying to figure out how to get past him when he's being a tool. Once you hit him enough, you get this animation where Zelda fires a light beam at her, and that triggers the final stage. Okay, so here we are at the final stage. Once Ganon kind of stumbles, Zelda's going to hit him with light. This is your clue to put on the Master Sword if you have not already put on the Master Sword, and smack him in the head, and that is the end of the game. So Zelda Ocarina of Time, 3 hearts completed. Next one up, I guess, is Majora's Mask. Overall, pretty good game. Enjoyed it.